I love Sean Russell like he's my own kid, and I can tell you that I've been fortunate to know him for a long time. Um, Years ago, Sean was on a board called the State Farm Youth Advisory Board, which is based out of Bloomington, Illinois, which is only 35 miles from my house. That's why we always say that we here in Pontiac are 35 miles north of normal or being normal. So as a result of that, I got to know Sean when my kids wrote a grant to apply for a State Farm Youth Advisory Board grant for $100,000. So in 2011, Operation Endangered Species became a reality because our kids wrote a grant and Sean Russell and his crew put the thumbs up to it. And they're the reason why my kids got to do what they did. And so to bring this all full circle, Sean has since moved on from being at State Farm Youth Advisory Board, moved on to being at SeaWorld Busch Gardens Youth Advisory Board. Let me also point out before that, Sean developed his own program in Florida on the elimination and recovery of monofilament fishing line. Sean single-handedly has been responsible for changing an entire industry, the fishing industry. Sean is amazing, but he goes to the State Farm or goes to SeaWorld Busch Gardens. My daughter Bailey and I, serendipity to Sean going there. Our program gets an award from SeaWorld Busch Gardens. Lo and behold, here's Sean Russell again. And so it seemed like that the entire universe was causing Sean Russell to be a part of my life. But from there, my daughter Bailey again becomes on the SeaWorld, goes on to the State Farm Youth Advisory Board because she wants to give back with our relationship there, and then somehow ends up on the State Farm or on the SeaWorld Busch Gardens Advisory Board. So now, once again, I'm with Sean. And then Sean goes off and does his thing. And then all of a sudden, I'm with Sean again, Project Peace by Youth. God bless this world. Sean Russell is the greatest human being on this planet. And I want you to know, EarthEcho International, they're game changers. Before I turn it over to Sean, because you can see he's chomping at the bit, I want to remind everybody of a couple of things. I want to remind two things. One, guys, we have jammed everything that we could jam into an immediate trying to get this all together before everybody goes back to school, and it's been crazy. And you guys have done awesome. But by chance, if you're just overwhelmed and you're trying to get all this done, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You can watch the recording. You're worried about, I'm not going to get the homework done on time, blah, blah, blah. I got to get my classroom set up. It's okay. Guys, we're trying to give you all the tools in the toolbox to make all of these things happen. And so as a result, what I'm trying to say is we're trying as hard as we can to give you all these things, but don't stress about whether you get it all done in time. Our end game, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so I want to just reiterate that because I felt it too. And I just want you to know that I'm with you. The next thing I want to point out just real quick is that we have our office hours on August 13th from 3 to 4. That's elementary school office hours.
Wait, hold on. August 3rd.
That's what I said, didn't I?
No, you said 13th.
3rd is what I meant. I apologize. I don't know what happened. I think I was just so overwhelmed by Sean. I just start sputtering things. August 7th, 1 to 2 is middle school office hours. And August 10th, 3 to 4 is high school. Now, I know what you're thinking to yourself. You're thinking, gosh, I know Paul just talked about being overwhelmed and everything like that, but I want to go to all three. Great. Awesome. What if you say, I'm a high schooler, but I really would like to look at the middle? Okay, great. Go look at the middle. Go with that. It doesn't matter. It's all whatever you feel that you want to do, what you're comfortable with. Awesome. It's just whatever. So I just want to throw that out to there. It's so exciting. I think I've said a few things about Sean, but I just want to say one more thing, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Sean's my hero, and I'll tell you why. All throughout life, you look at these kids who come up through the ranks and who do things. Sean has always had a laser focus on what needed to be done and what's right, and
Did we lose Paul? We lost Paul. That was deep. I thought he was in like deep, perplexed, like what's the next word he could say.
Sean, Paul. Has he officially adopted you yet?
I mean, I think with that introduction, I think we're about, we just sealed that deal.
Congratulations.
Free to take it away, Sean. With no further ado, Sean Russell, ladies and gentlemen.
No, thank you also. I gotta, when we get Paul back, we'll have to circle back on the stories with Paul, but thank you also. I don't know if I've ever had a lead in quite like that, but so excited to be with you all today and have a chance to share a little bit more about our work at EarthEcho. And in just a minute, we'll pull up, so actually, Susan, let's go ahead and pull up those slides and we'll get that rolling. But very excited to share, one, to hear about this project in the first place. It was really, as Paul said, we've had a chance to connect kind of on a number of levels with this program, both through, Paul and his work with students and kind of the youth leadership side of the programming that I'll speak to and a little bit here, but also through our EarthEcho Water Challenge that Susan will really dive into with you all in just a minute as well. But the goal here is really to equip you with a toolkit and resources that can be available for your students to help dive deeper into the issues in your community. Specifically, in this case, we'll talk about around watershed health through our EarthEcho Water Challenge program. And then I will also touch on a little bit of our youth leadership programs and talk you through kind of how, how we can continue to provide connectivity and resources and opportunities for young people to connect both on a local, regional, and global scale as well. And I think we've got Paul back too.
Yes.
Paul, we get you back.
Hey, that's how you get somebody to stop talking about somebody. God bless you, Sean. You're the best kid. I just love what you do. So sorry about that, guys. That's what's called being in Illinois. That's what happens.
It happens here every day from thunderstorms. So I hear you in South Florida. But Paul, you didn't hear me say this, but thank you so much. I don't know if I've ever had quite a thorough introduction. You know my life story better than I probably do, but so grateful for you as just a steadfast champion for youth leadership and the power.
Tell me though that I don't show you a good time when you're in Pontiac.
You beat me to where I was going. So my first connection with Paul was sitting in State Farm reading grants about Operation Endangered Species, and me and 20 plus of my peers going, "Oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever!" Out of hundreds of applications from across the country, and awarding that funding. I remember specifically, Paul, the people who had to call you and tell you that you got that award, which they had a fun phone call from what I hear. And then a year later, coming back to intern at State Farm and having the chance to go to reach out to Paul, we said, "Hey, we got to go visit that snapping turtle project. They're only 35 miles from here." And needless to say, Paul rolled in with the entire school bus to pick us up at the train station. And if there was, I think we have seen everything that the best of Pontiac, no questions asked, and just an absolutely epic day seeing that project come to life and the incredible work that your students have done. And for me, it's always, far beyond all the work we had the chance to do together, it's always so rewarding to come back and see the growth of this Operation Endangered Species concept and where you guys have taken it across the state and beyond. And it's, for me, it's always so rewarding to see how that one grant galvanized so much, so much programming and opportunities and the youth voice and leadership that's been put throughout all of this as well. So it's just a pleasure, as you said, to get to come full circle and see this now. Gosh, it's been 7 years or so, or more, 7 or 8 years since that all launched, and to see this continue to grow and to see youth voice and leadership really be at the forefront of all of it is so incredibly rewarding, and just grateful to be a part of it and grateful to connect back into with the EPA team on this as well, and the connections with the EarthEcho Water Challenge. So we'll dive in and share a little bit of background on EarthEcho International on our work. And I'm going to turn it over to Susan to tell you all about the EarthEcho Water Challenge and kind of how this can be really a resource and a tool for your students to take on a role in their communities investigating specifically water quality topics and turning that into action in their communities as well. And then we'll talk through, like I said, some opportunities, example things we have coming up, other resources, youth leadership programming, and ways that throughout the course of this Peace by Youth project, you'll have a chance to plug in with our young leaders across the country and around the world as well. Just to give you a little bit of context on who we are at EarthEcho, we are an environmental education nonprofit that was founded just about 15 years ago by Philippe and Alexandra Cousteau, the grandchildren of ocean explorer Jacques Cousteau. And our work really builds on a legacy of combining adventure and exploration with storytelling and communication with a specific mission and focus. And I think Susan, you can flash that next slide. But a specific mission and focus on inspiring young people to act now for a sustainable future. And to accomplish that mission, we have a number of different programs. But for us, the key word is now in that mission statement. As all of you are so aware, and the point of this whole program is identifying the fact that nearly half the world's population is under the age of 25, and if we're serious about addressing the big picture environmental challenges facing our planet, we can't just write off young people as leaders of the future. We really need to provide the tools to support, kind of break down the barriers, and provide the resources for them to take the lead on this work. And it's just such a pleasure to join you all and have you all as partners and collaborators in that work. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Susan. We'll get those slides set up aside. But I want to introduce my incredible colleague, Susan Tate, who is also from your neck of the woods up in Michigan, probably a little bit closer than where I am. But Susan has spent time as an incredible science teacher in the classroom. We were lucky enough to steal her away from the classroom about 6 months ago to take on the role as our EarthEcho Water Challenge Manager. And I'm so excited for her to have a chance to spend some time with you guys today to introduce the Water Challenge and share some of the stories and work and how this can really serve as a resource for your students as you get into this project and campaign. And I will circle back toward the end and jump in with a little bit more about our youth leadership programs and opportunities. But with that, I will turn it over to Susan.
Thank you, Sean. So yeah, I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself without stopping my screen sharing.
Right.
So I'll put it back. I'm like, where's the unmute on here? So it's nice to be here and meet all of you, and some of you I've met already. And Paul, I completely agree that Sean is probably one of the coolest people I've met as well. The only thing he's not as cool as me, though, is I'm from the Midwest, like most of you. So, that's my one edge up on Sean here. All right, so let me go ahead and present.
Queues up a whole lot of interesting Florida jokes and comments probably at this point, Susan, but we'll save those for another day.
For sure.
There we go. Perfect.
All right. There we go. So like Sean mentioned, we do have several pillar programs, and I'm going to dive in here and talk a little bit more about the Water Challenge and how it connects to the work that your program is doing. So, but I first have a poll question for you. And since we're not on Zoom, we can't drop this in like a typical poll question. So Sean has a link to a one question Google form, and he's going to drop that in the chat box for me. And Sean, then you're also going to have to tell me the results because I don't think I'll be able to.
You got it. Sounds good.
Check those out. So if you can answer the question, what is your experience level monitoring water quality? Are you A, really experienced? As the kids would say, you're the CEO of water testing. B, I've tested enough times to look like I know what I'm doing. C, saw it, tried it. Am I doing this right? Or D, not a clue, but I'm excited to jump in. So if you could choose the answer that most closely represents your feelings about water quality testing, and then Sean will share the results.
Are fast on those two results pouring in. We've got, let's see, keeps refreshing on me. Let's see, we've got about 63% with tested enough times to look like I know what I'm doing.
Nice.
We've got 9% are owning the fact that they are the CEO of water quality. 9% also with not a clue, but excited to jump in, and we appreciate that. And then 18% we saw it, tried it. Am I doing this right? So
awesome.
Good mixture across the board.
A little bit of everything here. All right. So, hopefully by the time I'm done with this presentation, we'll at least have everybody up into an A, B, or C category on this. But also, I'd like to take just a moment to have everybody reflect on why it's important for citizens, students, teachers, community members. Why is it important to monitor the quality of our water? And if you'd like to type your answer in the chat box, and then Sean will share a few of those with the group. And you are allowed to have multiple answers if you want. You don't want to have anyone feel like they're really, hemmed in by just one answer to this question. I feel like I should be playing some Jeopardy music.
Good responses come in. I see for our generation and future generations, water affects everything. Lots of conversations around kind of the interconnectedness. Water is our most precious resource. Overall health of the watershed indicates the overall health of the local environment. So great to see the connections between kind of watershed health and broader environmental health. Love swimming in the lake. So that's a great one too, looking at the recreational side of this as well. And now that COVID's here, always wondering just how clean it is. Good question. Water quality determines stream biodiversity, which supports wider biodiversity. Todd, appreciate that, all upstream from the ocean. So what we're doing to not contribute polluting the ocean too, and those inland connections and pieces of work. Environments, recreation, humans, biodiversity. Great to see, again, just the interconnectivity of water throughout all of these things.
Okay, thank you for that range of answers. And I want to say that I completely agree with everything that you shared. These are just a few pictures that I had on my camera roll. And of course, being from Michigan, and most of you are from the Midwest, and so we're pretty closely connected to the Great Lakes. And it's just the idea that, we're swimming in it, we're eating things that live in it, we're spending time in it, on it, near it. We're, growing our food from water, from our watershed. So just the connectedness of not only to watershed health, human health, and the supporting the entire ecosystem. So. And of course, it doesn't take much to look at the news headlines and see that a lot of our water bodies are dealing with some significant issues, whether it's climate change, plastic pollution, chemical pollution, habitat loss, invasive species. There's, a lot of things, a lot of sort of entry points for students to be thinking about what those issues are, not only in their own community, but around the world as well. So the EarthEcho Water Challenge is one of our signature programs, and it's a global citizen science program that empowers young people to monitor their local water quality and then share their findings with other people, and also think about ways to protect not only their local waterway, but that sort of global idea of protecting our water planet. And currently we have about 1.6 million people who've participated in the Water Challenge in 146 countries, leading to 77,000 bodies of water that are being monitored. So it's a three-pronged approach with the Water Challenge. We ask people to test or monitor a local surface water body, and then share that data on our global database, and then work to protect that water body, like I mentioned. So we use these kits from Lamont. These kits are available on our website. They can be purchased. We also have a kit donation program. But the cool thing about the Water Challenge is you don't have to use this kit necessarily. You can use water testing equipment that you already have, which can be a whole range of sophistication. It could be using a thermometer and pH paper and things like that, all the way up to using colorimeters and probeware and things of that nature. But the Water Challenge kit, which I'm going to actually do a quick demo for you today, is a really nice entry point, especially for upper elementary, middle school students, and even high school students. But then they can, like I said, sort of launch into more sophisticated water monitoring equipment, and also include other parameters for testing as well.
I actually do use these for my AP Environmental Science class.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
One thing I think is nice, because I've taken my students out water testing before, using some equipment that we would check out from our intermediate school district. And each thing costs $1,000, and if they drop it in the water, it's going to be ruined and or it may disappear. It is really nice to use these kits and have a lower tech approach, but it's really accessible. Kids can throw them in their backpack, and they're inexpensive and very easy to use for most kids. So these kits can be used for testing any surface water body. That can be fresh water or salt water. They're just not designed to test home tap water, but other than that, they can be used just about anywhere outdoors to test water. And we do have a basic kit, which is the one I'm going to show you today, which has one set of testing hardware and enough reagents to do 50 chemical tests, which would be the pH and dissolved oxygen. Or we have the classroom kit, which comes with 5 sets of testing hardware and still 50 sets of chemical reagents. So that could be used, with a group of maybe 25 students, breaking them into smaller groups. Each group would get 1 set of testing hardware and could go through the different tests. And we can also chat a little bit about some of the challenges that COVID may be presenting to what we typically would be doing with our classes. So we've seen a lot of creativity from some of our education partners, and we'd love to, kind of help you problem solve if you're sort of stuck. Because realistically, there may not be classrooms going on field trips this fall. There may not be guest speakers, but there's a lot of ways that this kit and the water challenge can still be utilized. So there's 4 basic tests that the water kit has, which would be temperature, turbidity, pH, and dissolved oxygen. And I'm actually I went out to a nearby stream and collected some water about an hour ago. So I'm going to just kind of come off of screen share here in a moment and kind of walk you through this really surface level analysis of it, not getting into the different parameters and what they mean for stream quality, but a lot of that information is located on our website at monitorwater.org. And we have even some little testing videos and stuff too. But I went out so there's my little Michigan map, and there's the star where I live. So I live right along Lake Michigan, about halfway up the lower peninsula. And I live right near, so if you're familiar with sort of the geography and geology of Michigan, we have on the west side of the state here, we have a lot of drowned river mouth lakes. So I live near White Lake, which is really just a terminus. What's up? Is there a question? Or maybe I was just getting some feedback.
I did have a quick question. I dropped it in the chat, but I'll just drop it in here quick since you're going over where you're from. Are you associated with MSTA?
Yeah, I'm actually.
Are you the Region 4 director?
I am.
I thought so. So I renewed my membership today because I was. Long story short, we're doing a water quality testing program already, separate from Project Peace with ELGRO, and I'm applying for an MSTA mini grant to try to get some additional probeware that can work with the LabQuest stuff that Kent ISD already has.
Okay.
So at any rate, I was like, Susan Tate, why does that ring a name or ring a bell in Michigan science arenas? And that must be why.
Well, Jordan, you get a vote from me in getting that grant. So I just want you to know you're going to get it now. Karen says the same thing. It's coming. Don't worry, buddy.
Okay. I didn't mean to be fishing for a grant support there, but I do appreciate it. So at any rate, that's nice to know that's the connection, because I was like, I've just seen this name today. So
it's nice to meet you. I'm glad we're both on the call here together. So I'm the regional director for MSTA, and then I'm also pretty closely affiliated with the Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative. I know in Kent County, there's Groundswell is the program there. So.
Yeah, we've been doing Groundswell for about 3 years now. So it's kind of funny, Groundswell, Project Peace, this ELGRO is now applying for a NOAA grant. All of these things are kind of converging. So it's kind of nice because you don't have to rewrite the purpose statement over and over again. You kind of have the purpose of water quality in your local watershed down at a certain point, and it's just kind of funny how things converge. So this is cool.
Yeah, well, it's nice, and it's nice to see that there's money at the state and the federal level that are supporting a lot of these projects. So that's reassuring. I'm going to stop sharing here for just a second and kind of show you the kit and what. So this is this little tiny creek. By the way, that picture I took in the spring. So that is a beautiful blossom on a skunk cabbage. And I was just out there today, and it's totally different view, obviously, since April. But let me come off of my screen share here. Okay, I don't know if can you guys see me again here like normal? So this is the kit that I was mentioning. And by the way, one way that you can be creative with water testing, if schools kind of go back down into just online learning for the fall, is I've done some water testing demonstrations using Zoom and just having, I don't know where it is. I have like it's almost like a little wire wrap. It's buried under a bunch of stuff. So, you do a Zoom thing with your students, and you can have, you on as a presenter, and then also set up your cell phone as a document camera. And then you can conduct your water testing under the document camera. And so you can have your students, watch you test water that way, or take, a phone out to the river and jump on that way and have your students see that. So while it would be really nice to be in person with our students this fall and to, be able to take them outdoors, there are a lot of ways that you can sort of be creative with the water testing. So like I said, I went out a little over an hour ago and collected this water. And so this is the water collection container. And I just, put it under the water and submerged it. It has some temperature strips on the side of it, just to kind of show you really quickly. And it's can you see that? It's the number in green, which right now is saying 20 degrees Celsius, which is actually what it read when I was at the stream as well. So, of course, if you are bringing water back to your classroom, you're going to want to probably take the water temperature, on site. Otherwise, your water is kind of warming up. So I just set up some of these tests. So temperature is really easy. Student can just take a look at these thermometer stickers. By the way, when I was at water testing in April, this top strip here is the really cold temperatures, and it was only 6 degrees. So it was kind of nice to go out there now in July and have it be on the bottom thermometer. I'm sure where Sean is at, he doesn't ever have to worry about this top thermometer lighting up, but in the Midwest, you might, depending on what time of year you're taking your students out.
Susan, mentioning that, do you guys do a snapshot? Everybody, we're going to, for anybody who wants to test on May 25th, or do you just do it whenever?
It's pretty much open to whenever people want to be going out water testing. We do have a couple of big dates with World Water Day and World Water Monitoring Day, where we, really encourage people to get out and test water, in March, and September 18th is World Water Monitoring Day coming up. So it's great if a lot of people are engaged around a certain date, but it's really open to whenever it's convenient for people to go out and water test. And some people repeatedly go to a site, and I'll show you some data for that. And some people go to different sites every time to water test. So there's no really right way to do it and wrong way to do it. It's very flexible for what meets the needs of the teacher or whoever's doing the water testing. I just went out and collected this, brought it back, got an air temperature off of my phone. By the way, there's a nice inside, this little instruction booklet comes with a kit. There's a nice little data table where you can record your answers. Or on our website, we do have, in the tools section, we do have a printed data sheet that students could take out into the field and record their answers on that. Turbidity is, so it also comes with this little color comparison chart. And so we have these little Secchi disc symbols over here. So turbidity, it's just a matter of taking the cap off. Now I've let this sit for a while. So probably the sediment has settled down, and I'd want to sort of shake it up. I also can't tip it towards the camera, so you can't see inside of it here. I don't think, and I could probably maybe tip that down. I don't know. Can you guys see that little Secchi disc on the bottom?
Yep, all good.
Okay. So, then a student would just take the color comparison chart, hold it next to it, look down at it, and see what the turbidity is. And I will say also, because you definitely will have students wanting to know this, and teachers as well, if you see there's just 3 sort of choices, but if it looks like it's in between, you're certainly welcome to say, like for me, when I looked at this earlier, it looked like it was in between 40 and 100. So I said 70. So you're allowed to pick an in-between answer as well. So that's the turbidity. And then dissolved oxygen, the test comes with this little glass vial, and there are, here we go, and there's some little reagent tabs. So it's just a matter of, you know, taking your water sample that you already collected. So all the tests can be used off of the same water sample. I would say also, if you're going to shake your collection container for the turbidity test, make sure that you've already taken your dissolved oxygen sample out, or you're going to have a really nicely elevated dissolved oxygen reading. But with this one, you want to submerge the vial into the water and make sure that the water's all the way to the very top. And then you kind of take it out carefully and you put your 2 tabs in it. And again, all of these instructions are in the little kit instruction booklet, so it's really easy to go through. Put your tablets in and do your little shake, shake, shake until the tablets are gone. And there's a little bit of a reaction time. So what I did, this is like on one of those cooking shows where, you know, they put the thing in the oven and then they're like, oh, look, it's already done. So this is my celebrity being on a cooking show. So I already had one set up because it takes a 5-minute reaction time after the tablets dissolve. So it really takes almost about 10 minutes for this dissolved oxygen to be done. So, you know, if you're doing this with students, you might want to give them something else to do in the meantime so they don't get into trouble. But then you just take your color comparison chart, and there's not really great light on this here, but it looks like it's maybe closer to 4 than 8. You can also say it's in between. Pick a number like 6 in between there as well. And then the pH test is really easy to do. Comes with this little plastic test tube, and you just put it back in your water sample and fill it up to the line. Now with this one, of course, you don't have to worry about filling the tube all the way up because extra oxygen in there isn't going to make a difference. And then there's other little somewhere here. This, if you've taken students out to do something like this, when I used to take my students out, like making sure that the chemicals for each test are separated so that like there's no way they can make a mistake and put the wrong chemical in is kind of key. I don't know how many chemicals we wasted when someone would use like the nitrate AccuVac instead of the dissolved oxygen one, and we'd be out of luck. But there's little pH tabs, and you put one in, shake it up, and again, just like magic, I have one already set up here. Let me just move my water out of my way before I knock that over. And again, you use the color comparison chart and kind of see where you're at with pH, which a lot of our Michigan streams and lakes end up being slightly basic. So this is about 8, just because of all the limestone that we have, making our water bodies pretty basic. But you should find that your water body is going to fall in the 7 to 8, maybe it's closer to 6, depending on where you're water testing. So that's just a quick overview of the kit. And it's, like I said, it's pretty straightforward, very easy instructions for the kids to follow. So I'm going to go back. Were there any questions about the kit before I go back to screen sharing and I can still see your faces? Okay. All right. Let's see. One moment while I switch back and we'll talk about what do you do with your data once your students have data. So one of the coolest things I think about the EarthEcho Water Challenge, and as a teacher, when I used to take my students out water testing, I would get this great data, and then you sort of have this, so what do you do with it now? Like, do you just take a, do you just save it as a teacher and you look at it every year, or is there a way to sort of share this out with the broader scientific and citizen science community? So the EarthEcho Water Challenge is a place where you can add your data, and then anyone from around the world can actually access the data that you put in, and then you can look for data at other sites. So you can see on this little screenshot here that there's a map behind this information. And if you want to just browse the results, you can click on any dot on the map and see what water testing was done at that site, and if it pertains to what you're doing as well. But for yourself, once your students collect the data, you're going to go in here and add the results. Just want to show really quickly that you can actually do this in the field on a cell phone. You can come back to the classroom and put it in using a computer. So there's lots of options. But once you log in, so you do have to create a login the first time you use the global database. But once you've logged in, you can either add a site, or if you've already defined the site, if you've already visited it, you can just add results. So it's pretty easy to do that. And there'll just be a few questions about the site. You can upload pictures and things just like that. And then later, when you go back and you look at your data, so here's a good example of a site where this one is showing a graph of pH taken over many dates at the same location. So it's a way of looking at that change over time, and whether you're finding big changes in pH or dissolved oxygen, maybe just even at its most basic step, having students look at the change in temperature over the year. If you're going out once a month to a site or once a quarter, you can see some really cool changes, obviously, in most of these parameters. And then that stimulates that discussion with students about what is going on here, what's causing some of these changes. Are these natural changes? Could these be human influence changes? And what do we want to investigate as part of that?
Are you guys thinking the same thing that I'm thinking? Go back to that slide.
That was pretty fun. Yep.
So that slide, I just sat here and I said, oh my gosh, if we can EnviroAtlas and look at the information from there and compare it to the information on EarthEcho, our kids will have an unbelievable data set, and not coming back to the beach, seeing how we can get them up. But what a great opportunity for us who are remote to use data with what they're doing. That is so awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really cool resource, like you said, whether you're actually getting the data, whether you're just kids are accessing it remotely. I mean, so much of these Water Challenge resources can be utilized whether you're in-person schooling or online, whatever's going on, because it's so adaptable to whatever the situation is. But yeah, using this with the EnviroAtlas tool would be really eye-opening, I think, for a lot of students to kind of look at what are some issues within their community. And another important thing we like to highlight is the point about storytelling, and I think this can be a really compelling thing for students as well. If we look back at Jacques Cousteau and what storytelling did for the ocean, and then look at even Philippe, our founder, and the way he uses storytelling to showcase these environmental issues around the world, that is a really critical component to this. So entering your data into the website, and there's within the database, when you're entering your water testing data, you can actually add photos from the site. You can tell us a little bit about your story of what you're doing. There's a part where you can talk about any action that you're taking at the site. But we also look for people to share this on social media. So whether that's a school's social media site or a teacher's personal social media, utilizing the hashtag #MonitorWater allows us to kind of find and amplify those stories as well. So these are just some stories that you can find on our Water Challenge blog that could be pretty inspirational to students, and having them think about how would they tell the story of what they're doing at one of these sites where they're testing. And then again, like I said, that third piece is the protection aspect, and this is where, this is what you want your students to be doing. This is the whole point of Project Peace, that how do students become empowered to take action in their community and solve a problem. And so, when I would take my students out water testing, that was really that community inventory piece where they're looking at the data and they're also looking at the site where you're located. And, do you see invasive species there? Do you see, the site I went to today to get my water sample, it's kind of residential in the area, residential, I should use that term pretty loosely because I think we're still considered rural. Small town, some homes along it, but upstream there's farm fields. And so you can start looking at, are there fertilizer or agricultural waste runoff into the stream? So kids can really start to look at the site and what actions, what issues do they want to investigate in their own community, utilizing their water challenge data to sort of inspire them. So I told Sean this was my flex on our partners here. So we've got lots of water challenge partners, and some of these partners are located in the Midwest, and they could be potential, project partners with your students. Some of these partners are located not in the Midwest and might be a good source for your students to kind of look and see what things are being done, on the East Coast or the West Coast or in the Caribbean or something like that. So you can find these on our website at monitorwater.org/partners. And each of the partner logos, when you click on it, it actually takes you out to that partner's website. So you can kind of explore what they're doing. And just quickly here before Sean jumps back in with some youth opportunities, just to show a few examples of that, test, share, protect action that students are taking with a few of our water challenge partners. So this was at Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and students were testing water and also doing some stream bank restoration with some tree planting. And then we've got in North Carolina, there's a partner called Love a Sea Turtle, and they did a great storm drain stenciling program. So there's a lot of ways that students can become engaged in this work. This is a partner out in California, the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains, which may just win the prize for the longest organization title. I had to learn that one pretty quickly. And here's just a graph showing some long-term monitoring results from their site. In the National Aquarium in Baltimore, we've done a project with them where Sean helped build out a custom dashboard. So they're doing repeated testing of the bay in Baltimore, and students are coming out to the aquarium. So just a lot of ways. Oh, there's dissolved oxygen. Just a lot of ways for students to plug into this work and come up with something that really pertains to your community. I did want to just quickly highlight the fact that we do have a lot of curriculum support on our website, which again is just monitorwater.org. And then there's, you can click on tools or add that to the URL. So there's a lot of different action guides and lesson plans that you can utilize there. And then also on EarthEcho.org, we have, if you click on virtual events, we have a lot of live virtual events, and then everything is recorded and put up on our website, also on our YouTube channel. We have virtual field trips and virtual career connections with our STEM Explore program. And all of, not all of those, but I mean, they're all related to water in some way, but some of those are also related to water quality testing. And so it's a good chance to get students kind of looking at some of the different careers that might be involved with water, and kind of exploring some of those, a lot of the virtual field trips might look at some water technology locations. The Water Challenge, our primary sponsor is Xylem, which is in water technology company that they solve water is their tagline. So they solve some of these water crises around the world. So another good place to look for some content to share with students and kind of plug them in to some other things. And I just talked a whole bunch, and I'm gonna turn it over to Sean here. And if we have some time for some questions at the end, I would love to hear, or if you have any questions right now you wanted to ask me before we switch to Sean, just let me know.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, any questions, feel free to jump in. We can take, I've seen a couple of things in the chat box as well too. I should just come to a couple of those. Paul, I saw your comment come through about kind of the mobile testing too, and it's a great opportunity that, to be honest, not a ton, probably more of our partners and participants could take advantage of, is the fact that you can have a a smartphone or a tablet out in the field, upload photos directly through the system, and the website and database pulls up really well, kind of on a mobile mobile application as well.
I was just going to wonder, there's a couple of us that are in big cities, and so it's not so easy to like walk out into your backyard and find a stream to go test, That's why I kind of brought up the lake as an obvious choice. I'm not an environmental science teacher, I'm a chemistry teacher, so I was just going to, open it up to whoever would have advice, maybe even Todd. I know we're at the same school, like in terms of applying these ideas in an urban environment, if there's any thoughts.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if someone was going
We can, Todd, I don't know if you want to add from your experiences, but we can definitely share from some of our end. Susan, I can add just a couple of things from some of our work and past.
Okay.
We definitely work with a number of urban hubs and cities. And it looks a little bit different in each place. Some of the groups are able to go and have access on a field trip or a field program, or sometimes walking distance to a body of water. But we have that's definitely been a situation when we have had groups where a teacher will collect a water sample, as Susan mentioned, capture some of the data on site, so we get that kind of fresh temperature information, things like that, and then bring that sample into the classroom, because again, sometimes it's harder to get the students out of the classroom. They can still get that full experience. Sometimes, sometimes, as Susan just mentioned, sometimes the data is the same as it would be when you were getting that fresh sample, but just to double check that and go through that process with the students. What we do, we've got students from Seattle to Miami to New York, you name it. And that's something that, I'm about to kind of touch on our youth programs. There's an interesting opportunity, Karen, to explore how we can connect you to young people in other urban hubs that could share some of their experiences as well, if that's of interest to them.
Sean, you guys have your youth board.
Mm-hmm.
It would be really neat to be able to make the connection with our group of teachers and their students with maybe one or two in maybe the areas that they're at. Who knows? Maybe somewhere over international. But to give that opportunity, is that something that we could figure out to make connections with?
Absolutely, that's what I'm about to tell you. Segued so nicely there, Paul. Actually, Susan, if you want to put, yeah, you did perfect. Look at that slide was ready and everything. Actually, Susan, if you want to put back just one other slide back one, I'll touch on just briefly. As Susan touched on, there's a number of other resources and programs at EarthEcho that tie all kind of into this theme around our water planet. So the water challenge is such a great jumping off point, and I think as we look at these projects on the Peace by Youth students looking at those interested in diving deeper into water quality issues and topics, they're welcome to check out our expeditions program, which takes students on expeditions around the world to look at issues ranging from to dead zones to ocean acidification to water quality. We've got our STEM Explore program, which looks a little bit more into STEM careers and how you can kind of turn these topics and areas of interest into a career. I think we've got mostly high school, but I forgot the middle school students too. The EarthEcho Challenge is a new competition we ran this year for middle school age students looking at kind of biodiversity challenges in their own backyard. And then, as Paul mentioned, all of our programs are really designed to be, youth driven at their core. Really want that youth voice to be integrated throughout the work we do around the world. And so, Susan, you can flash that next slide. As Paul mentioned, we have a youth leadership council, and this is a group of 27 high school and college age students from around the world, ages 15 to 22. And they really drive the work that we do every day. They serve on committees that work with each of our programs, especially the Water Challenge. They help influence the direction of our programs, as well as lead campaigns and initiatives for their peers around the world as well. And in particular, this group also works on our Water Challenge program with another group of students called the Water Challenge Ambassadors. We have a group of about 20 students that come on board each year from across the country that are trained to lead water quality monitoring programs in their local communities. And Paul, to your point, would love to build some connectivity between the young people in either of those networks. That makes sense, whether it's based on geography or areas of interest, or if there's interest in connecting people in different geographies. We can definitely explore opportunities for that as well.
Well, I think that's powerful in a lot of ways. I think it's powerful in the sense that they get to be inspired by these kids, right? But even more, I think it's more powerful that some of our students in our group then can take the next step and join the leadership council or join the group. And I think that's where the big picture is. We have the mentoring in any discipline, and then that next step. That's what I see happening. I really do.
100%. No, Paul, that's Jordan. I see your question too about applications. Absolutely. So one of the things that we're excited about this year is there's been this real opportunity over the course of the last kind of year or so to really grow our direct youth leadership programs. And so things like the Water Challenge have been this really incredible jumping off point to plug into broader opportunities like this. So applications typically open both for our Water Challenge ambassadors and our Youth Leadership Council in the spring. This year they opened early April, and that's a typical timeline. We will absolutely make sure, I think that's perfect timing, Paul, to your point, because I think where you guys will be in that Peace by Youth timeline, will be really nicely aligned with them kind of coming out with projects and ideas and can potentially apply for this and jump in as a next step. But we're also really continuing to ramp up our youth leadership programs throughout the year. So absolutely, we can identify those opportunities to connect some of this group or our Water Challenge ambassadors in as, whether it's leading a session or a kind of peer-to-peer training with the students in this water quality space in the Peace by Youth group. We'd love to explore that as well. And yes, Jordan, high school and college age students. So it's been the Youth Council is 15 to 22 at the time of application, and our Water Challenge ambassador program starts just a year lower at 14. So kind of a nice range of high school and college age students. Susan, if you want to go to the next slide, I will highlight kind of two quick opportunities coming up. Again, as we've said, this year we're excited to continue to grow these youth leadership programs, and I wanted to flag this as a more immediate opportunity to plug in and engage with our work. Typically each year we bring our EarthEcho Youth Leadership Council, our Water Challenge ambassadors to DC for our annual planning meeting and training. Obviously that has shifted virtually this year, but it's also allowed us to have a really unique opportunity to open the doors of that event to any young people who'd like to attend, ages 13 to 25 from around the world. So that event is actually next week. You can find all of the details at earthecho.org/youth-summit. And this year, our Youth Leadership Council is also ramping up some new work focused on building a youth voice and youth movement around protecting 30% of the ocean by 2030. So that will be a key theme throughout the sessions and speakers that we have next week. Kind of split between that theme around ocean and water health, but then also focus on skill building development and professional development around policy, around advocacy, around diversity and inclusion, working with businesses and technology, all different topics to really equip young people with the tools to take action around these issues as well. And it's also, again, great opportunity to meet and connect with young people from around the world. So if there are young leaders kind of in your networks or your students or former students, we'd love to have them join, and they can register this week on that website at earthecho.org/youth-summit. And then if we go to just the next slide again, a couple pictures you'll see up here, kind of highlighting, I think, what Paul has already touched on. These are some of our Water Challenge ambassadors, so young people actually leading this work as peer educators in their communities. Such just a fantastic group of young people we've worked with the last couple of years, and this is again spread across the country. And these are young people we'd love to, when that time comes and when it's appropriate, we'd love to connect them in with what you're doing. Give them a chance to share some of their experiences and learn from what your students are working on as well. And I love that tie back to Enviro Atlas and the kind of the bigger picture data here too, because that's such a big part of this is, working with these students to use water monitoring as that jumping off point. Sometimes it's the first connection to their local ecosystems and watershed, but then being able to take that data and have it as part of something bigger is really the goal here, and driving that toward, sustained action in their communities as well. So those are just a few kind of opportunities coming up. I think we've got just some time for questions or comments. Happy to, I know we've got a few questions we may have missed in the chat, but happy to take any more questions from both me or Susan.
And while we're doing that, Sean, I'm just going to go to the slide so people have our contact information and our social media.
Anybody got any questions? And if not, that's okay. We can send out their contact information. They'll respond or get back to you very quickly. Very good.
Yeah, Paul, just flying again, the big thanks to you guys for letting us be part of this. I think there's such, when we first heard about this project, it just sounded like such a natural connection to the work that you're doing and the Enviro Atlas component and the Peace by Youth overall goal of, again, getting students connected to their ecosystems, collecting data, becoming scientists, but also really using that to drive action in the long run. So a huge thanks to all of you for your interest in EarthEcho, your work that you're going to be doing. It's really exciting to see the year that's planned out, and can't wait to see how we can help and support.
If anybody is interested in water kits for your classroom, just let me know. We'll figure out how to get them for you. If I have to go sell lemonade on the side of the road or something, I'll go do it. I want you guys to have what you want, and we'll figure that out. But if you guys are interested in something like that, just let us know, and we'll do that. I just have to say, water testing and water quality. Obviously, water is our most precious resource, but to be able to draw everybody together and then tell the stories and elevate the students to that platform. That's the basis of everything that we're trying to do. And thank you so much to Sean and Susan for your dedication, not only today, but to the students and our planet. And we can't say thank you enough. And so with that, I'm going to turn today. And again, don't forget, if you have any questions for those two, send them an email. We'll send out their contacts, and then we'll make that happen. With that, I'm going to turn our program over to Todd. Todd, you ready to go?
Yes, and so Paul, do you by chance have the ability to pull up the file, or maybe Jess, are you able to pull up the file since you already have it open?
The PowerPoint, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So I'm having major lagging issues with having this recording for some reason.
Gremlins. It's gremlins.
Maybe. So if Jess, if you don't mind helping me out and sharing this for me, I'd appreciate it.
All right, let me know if you see it.
Sweet.
We got it. All right. So what we're going to do today, for the next half an hour or so, is I'm just going to talk a little bit about curriculum and stuff. If you go to the next one. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about some statistics, and specifically what's in the type of statistic that we're going to be looking at. Research that we're going to be talking about is from Hattie's Influences and Teaching Effect. And then we're also going to be looking at how those things impact how we see Hattie's stuff in the work that we're doing here with Project Peace by Youth. Then I'm going to go over the homework, which is going to be a video of how you're going to do curriculum integration with Enviro Atlas. And then you're going to, what you're going to be turning in, and when, which is 8/17, and I'm going to give you a few tips as well. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about, can we get you paid? The answer right now is no, but that's what we're going to talk about. So if we can go to the next one. All right. So first thing I want to talk about, has anyone ever seen this before? Knew it. I knew Jordan would have. Not surprised.
Our instructional coach is loves this person. Our assistant principal jokes about getting this tattooed on him. They just
nice.
Love it.
Nice. Well then make sure you let your principal know that this is what we were talking about this in
they'll be super psyched, because sometimes this is the trick with convincing your administrators to let you do kind of the cool stuff that comes off as a little harebrained or far-fetched to them.
Right.
So yeah, you can preach this all day long.
All right, well, I'm about to. So here we go. So John Hattie created these. He basically did what's called a mega analysis, in which he looked at over 1,200 different pieces of research on education to find out to what extent does the research itself or state that these things that we could do to help educate students, to what effect does it actually have on improving the quality of education for students. And so he's got reverse, developmental, teacher effects, and then zone of desired effects. If you can go to the next one. So we call that one the Hattie's Influence Barometer. And what he did is he kind of listed out all these different standards or factors that teachers might do, and to what extent they actually have an impact on student learning and student outcome. So let's go to the next slide. In this slide, what we're going to look at is what are the actual, what do the barometers mean? So I apologize if you can't read my writing. I thought it was going to be kind of cool, fun, easy to do, and legible, but maybe not as good. But here's what this says. So the negative stuff is just this actually harms children and their ability to actually learn stuff. One of them is TV. Another huge one is actually ADHD, fun fact. Where you get to the value of 0.0 to 0.2 or 0.15, that means that it's just regular developmental effects. Meaning, if you're just a kid and you just grow up, you just like, live another day or another year, this is going to happen to you. So it's meaningless if you have something that's a 0.15 or lower. If you have something that's 0.15 to 4 to 0.4, that means that there's going to be an effect that the teacher has provided. Basically, if a kid goes to school, this is what the expectations of learning will be over the course of that year. Now we go into the next part, the medium and high parts. So this is where you get 0.4 and higher. If you get 0.4 and higher, this is saying that you are learning above and beyond the typical school year. And so the more things that you can have that are being done in the 0.4 or higher means that you're going to see more academic growth within your amongst your students. So this is where we would really want to be. And these are like our goals as teachers. Like, how do we be more efficient and more effective as teachers? And can we use more of these things? Karen, the units of scale, this is his units of effect that he has. And I think there's a certain sort of statistical calculation he used. Honestly, I don't know that part, how he got the meta-analysis or how he did it. Basically, he was looking at the number of students and the number of different articles that kind of talked about or research that was done, and then factored in, well, what sort of influence did this actually have on student learning, and how well was that? So that's kind of what it is. Let's go to the next one, please. Okay, so here's what these first little lines show us. Project Piece by Youth is going to embed these different things. Now, I notice I'm missing a bunch of lines, actually pretty much all of my lines that indicate these different aspects, but starting from the bottom up. So we're going to be doing a service learning project. So the kids are going to have a affect of 0.58. This is a type of a creative program, 0.62. Field independence, problem solving teaching, meaning that that's what we're embedding within the kids for them to do this sort of research that we're asking of them to utilize EnviroAtlas, EarthEcho, Roots and Shoots. All of those components are that field independence component. Scaffolding, some of the stuff that we're going to be doing and the way we're setting this up is, first quarter, you teach EnviroAtlas. Second quarter, you're going to embed EnviroAtlas into one of your programs or your existing projects. You're going to modify it a little bit, and then you're going to insert that in. The kids will have learned first quarter how to actually do EnviroAtlas, then they're going to apply it second quarter, and then second semester is where they're going to actually apply it for real in a larger service learning type of activity. Transfer strategies is the same concept. It's actually the concept of why we are inviting or why we really want you to be pairing up with people who are part of a different subject or content matter. So that way, as the students are seeing EnviroAtlas in one aspect of a class, and then in another type of class, they're having this transfer of strategies. One of you are not muted. If you don't mind muting, I'd appreciate it. So that's transfer of strategies, and that's almost by doing something like scaffolding or transfer of strategies or this concept of micro-teaching, this almost is twice as powerful and has twice of an affect or effect on a student's learning than just what would normally happen during a school year. So these are really powerful things. The last one is this micro-teaching, and micro-teaching is where you are basically doing exactly what we are not doing here, which is you're giving small, no more than like 8-minute videos about like something that you want the kids to learn, because that's roughly the attention span. And as you all have experienced this, it's hard to continue to listen to things like this for hours on end, right? So if you could do stuff in just like short little 8-minute videos, that's really excellent, and it's going to help to keep students engaged. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, you do one more. Let me just see, and we might have to go back. Oh, perfect. All right, so now we have our, these are the ones I actually have lines drawn on this graph. And actually I had to increase the level of the graph because, or this barometer, because we're going above and beyond what the barometer went to. So we by you guys learning how to use Enviro Atlas, we're giving you and the ability to utilize data. We're giving you credibility that's going to allow the kids to also have further credibility. A strategy to integrate prior knowledge. This is what we're doing with the students, and as they are learning from first quarter through fourth quarter, using more of the Enviro Atlas, it's part of that strategy of integrated prior knowledge. So the prior knowledge is how to use the or the Enviro Atlas. Prior knowledge, same sort of idea. Conceptual change programs, this is where we're getting kids to actually think about what they could do differently to improve the quality of the environment within their community. That has a huge impact on just their interest, as well as their engagement and their ability to learn stuff that's being asked. The last couple are a response to intervention. So this is if a child is struggling, how can you effectively help them and intervene with what they're struggling with? So in the case that I'm thinking of, it's more, or that we're thinking of, it's more of the Enviro Atlas. And if the kids are struggling with how to use it after first quarter, you'll be able to see some of that in a formative assessment second quarter as you integrate it into a project. And I'll get to that next slide. Don't switch slides yet. Cognitive task analysis is this ability for the kids to think and analyze what's happening in their community. That has the response to intervention and the task analysis has a affect size of 1.29, and then lastly, the collective teacher efficacy has a 1.57. So I'm going to explain what this means real quick. So collective teacher efficacy is how teachers come together to basically encourage and grow one another in the programs that they're doing, so that they can excite or create greater change within the students. That's what we're doing here. That's what's so awesome about this group of teachers, is because of the fact that we are these, as Jordan just put it, these harebrained sort of teachers who are kind of out on the edge and out on the limb, doing some really interesting things that others might think are kind of crazy and not the norm. This support that we have for one another and what we are going to be able to provide the kids, that's this collective teacher efficacy. And as a result of us having this and being able to provide this for you and one another and each other, and then ultimately provide that for the kids have the ability to have 4 times the learning potential than they would in a regular class. So all of these things, when you add up all these different things, we are doing a ton as a result of Project Peace by Youth, from just like a educational standpoint of the pedagogy, the teaching ability or teaching styles that we're using, that's going to help to enhance how kids learn. So with that being said, I'm really excited. Can we go to the next slide? I'm going to now talk to you about, thank you, your homework. Okay, so you've had homework. We've assigned some stuff to you. You've got some other stuff that's due, like play with and use Enviro Atlas. The next part you are going to be doing, and just so you are aware, what we envision happening is first quarter, you embed Enviro Atlas training to your students. So that way they could learn how to utilize the program and kind of become familiar with it. Second quarter is where you are going to then modify an existing project that you have and embed Enviro Atlas somewhere into it. And so the benefit here is that now the kids are going to apply what they learned first quarter. They will have had the opportunity to kind of play around with it some, and now they're going to put it to use. With that being said, once you have an idea of which program you'd like to use, I want you to talk to your collaborative teacher and just kind of listen to what they're going to do and share what you want to do. And maybe there's a way to even tighten the gap if there's any sort of differences between what you all want to do maybe there's a way to make that make it where you're doing something even more similar, or it doesn't matter, you're just aware of what the other teacher is doing. Again, because both classes, even if you don't share the same students, but because they're using EnviroAtlas, it's just the skill that the kids could then apply to the project that you're suggesting. I want to just really reiterate something. As a teacher, like, I hate to have to come up with new projects necessarily. So we aren't asking you to come up with a new thing, just modify something you already have. If you don't have anything, then by all means go ahead and integrate it, or then create a new one. Once you have created your project, I would like to then do something that I also don't really like doing, which is planning ahead. But I'm going to make you all do it anyway. And what we're asking you to plan ahead with is create a 8-minute, no more, micro video about how to, for your students on what your project is that they have to do second quarter. And the reason I want you to do it for your students is so that way you could do it now during the summertime, and then later on, you'll have this already saved, ready to go. And so you could just hit play second quarter. Okay, so we're gonna just plan ahead, get it done with, and you'll be good to go. So you're gonna create that 8-minute micro video explaining your project to your students in a way that they will understand. Keep in mind, they should already know how to use EnviroAtlas at that point. So you don't have to do the whole like training thing they did that first quarter. You are then going to upload your video onto YouTube by August 17th, and then you're going to share it with the piece, project piece by youth on our Google Drive. Okay, so we'll have a link for that for you guys, or we'll show you the link so that we can just upload the link to your YouTube video right there, and you can also see everybody else's stuff. If we can go to the next one, please. All right, I want to give you a few tips and requirements for the video. First and foremost, again, no more than 8 minutes and 0 seconds. So can you go longer? No. You can go shorter, but you cannot go longer. Again, this isn't for me, it's for your students. Their ability to kind of like just keep on listening for more than 8 minutes, it just can't happen. Second, each of you have to embody Paul Ritter's enthusiasm. As you all know, it is contagious. So you have to be excited and create the enthusiasm just as he would. So, you know, harness that inner DJ voice of yours and then do exactly the same sort of thing. You've seen it in action. You know what it's like. You know how contagious it is. You're going to be that same type of person for your students. Okay, let them see that enthusiasm. Also, look into the camera. I'm looking into the camera. If you look at the last video that I put up just from this past Monday, I'm looking all over the place. I'm looking at my screen. I'm looking at my other screen. I'm looking over here. I'm not looking at the little dot with the little camera right there. And it's really weird to just look at the little dot. But by looking at the little dot, you feel like I'm connecting with you. I can't see any of you right now. I hate, like, you're in my periphery, sort of, but that makes a huge difference in the eyes of the viewer. And given the fact that your students are the viewer, we want you to make sure that you're focusing just on looking at that camera. Next, when you are videoing, if you are going to video with your phone, make sure you're holding it this way. Don't do it this way, so that way it really gets the entire screen, you know, or when you actually play it, it's widescreen. Lastly, make sure that the audio is clear. You know, if you have to put a mic on, go ahead and put a mic on. I think most of our audio are good, or at least good enough, but you know, you could put your AirPods in or earbuds in. That might enhance the video, the audio quality as well. Lastly, feel free to use pictures. You know, if you want to have pictures or a small video that's kind of showcasing what the kids are to do, or something that you know, that you might heard the term B-roll footage, like, you know, other pictures that aren't yours, but that's something else that kind of just shares a little bit about or captures the interest of what people are doing or what you'd like from them. Go ahead and include those and just do a voiceover. If you, you know, there's plenty of different software out there to create a video. Yes, it might be new for some of you, and yes, I want you to learn how to do it. if you already know how to do it, great, but now is the time to do it. Again, you'll have this ready to go for second quarter. It'll be awesome. And even if we aren't remote second quarter, you already have this, and the kids will already be familiar with how to do things remotely or how to get online to look at stuff, and you'll have this project ready to go. All right, next one. And Paul just texted to all of us, this concept of like, we get that you guys are overwhelmed, that there's a lot going on. We do. We do understand that. I understand that. I believe that by doing this ahead of time, it's going to just make things a lot easier, just because you won't have to deal with learning any of the new stuff during the actual school year. So, and quite honestly, a bunch of these skills that we're asking of you are just going to help to enhance your first quarter anyways. Okay, next one.
Michelle asked a great question. If she can submit a video with a teacher that she's collaborating with and doing the same project.
That'd be awesome. Absolutely. Absolutely. If so long as the project itself is going to be the same for each of you, or if you want to do two different videos, but you guys are both helping one another, and just you have your co-anchor and anchor, then great. That could be fine. If Michelle, given that you're working with the same students and you just want to do the exact same thing, yeah, go for it. That's fine. And then the nice thing is it gives them twice as much time to work on it because they're theoretically doing it for two different classes. Okay, any questions on that part? I'm going to be looking over at the chat right now to see what y'all have to say. So everyone's good?
Todd, I just put in there, I think it's important to note that could actually be even more powerful, that you have that tag teaming going back and forth between the two. I know that when you and I are tag teaming on different type of situations like that, we draw on each other's strengths. And so given the fact that like Jordan said, I think using Screencastify, another simple tool that I use is I Zoom myself and then I record it. And so it does have that ability to put that icon and share that up there. But if I Zoom with Todd, we can tag team together, and it makes it real easy.
Yeah, and you bring up a really great point. Like, none of this has to be production quality video. The kids are going to be familiar enough with seeing teachers, especially you remotely teaching, and so having a video that's 8 minutes long, that you do on something like Zoom or Google Meets, yeah, you can just hit record. It's fine. It does the same thing. Just again, don't look at yourself, look at the camera. And you could also have your little PowerPoint up or your slides up and kind of go through, here's what the requirements of the project are. And that'll be, I think that works really well. Michelle, I'm just reading your stuff. I don't think it's, should you be concerned with having enough FaceTime with your students? That's why we're doing a video. So that way it could be part of that remote learning part. So they can, you could put this up on a Monday or Sunday night and say, hey, this is your project that is due whenever you want to have it due, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks from the due date. And you might have small little things that they have to submit. So that way you at least know that they're completing or remaining on task and not doing what all of us would do, which is, how do we wait till the very last minute until the stress becomes so great that we have to get it done right now, or the opposite is you stress out because it's not done, and so you have to get it done right away, so that way you don't feel the stress. I'm the former. Okay, next thing. If we're all good with that, if anyone has any questions, if anything comes up, please let me know or let us know. Chime in. It's okay to interrupt me. I have just a couple more slides, and then we're done. we are working right now on obtaining grant funding. The big one is there's $100,000 environmental education local grants from Region 5, US EPA, and the cool thing is that it's like this macro grant that would allow the recipients, which would be Operation Endangered Species, to then give out smaller micro grants. And so our thoughts are, if we can get something like this, which, you know, every single thing that the EPA is looking for in a grant, like we're covering all those things with what we're doing with all of you and with what you're doing with the students based upon Project Peace by Youth. So our hope is that we can do two things. One, if you will stay with us for 2 years and you integrate things this year, you work out some of the kinks, which there clearly are going to be some, and you kind of figure out how to tweak it to make it better. You have everything already created. So how about we redo it next year? And then in doing it, in saying we're going to do it for another year, that will put you in the ability to potentially get funded if we get the money, because it's a 2-year sort of program. So this would be our first year. And then you'll kind of share with us like what it is that your students have done and what they're going to, which will kind of guide us as to what they're possibly going to do next year as well. What we're thinking is, you know, each teacher, instead of, you know, gets like $1,000 or so as a, hey, thanks for your time this past year, and here's now $4,000, or here's you know, a couple of $1,000 that you can now use as mini grants for your students to write to you, and then you are responsible for, you know, approving or denying them of the request for funding that they have to do even cooler grant projects that you'll do second quarter or second semester, doing even cooler stuff, and now you can help fund them for stuff. So for instance, you know, someone was mentioning, hey, how much are these water testing kits? Well, you'll have the money to buy it. Hey, my kids want to put up bat boxes. Cool, you'll have the money to buy them bat boxes. You know, that sort of thing. Jordan, I agree with you. I love it. I've done it in the past. I'll share with you a quick story. So this project that we are creating is something that I started 10 years ago as a result of the BP Horizon you know, oil explosion or rig explosion. And I was so frustrated that it took 88 days for these knuckleheads, you know, of BP and, you know, Deepwater Horizon to figure out how do we actually solve the problem. And it was a lack of leadership that I found so frustrating. And I remember like in my head, I started to sing, you know, Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. And I remember, you know, in this frustrated state, you know, looking in the mirror and being like, why is it that like we don't teach our people how to be good leaders? And then it's like, I'm looking at the man in the mirror and it's like, well, what have you done? You know, what have I done to suggest or encourage leadership and to take action and how to go about doing it and how to, you know, bring people with you so that way you can solve a common problem. And so that started this concept known as the Mycelia Project. And I'm not going to get into what mycelia is or the details of that right now, but much of what we've embedded into Project Peace by Youth is that exact same project. And one of the things that we had done working with Paul is I was part of the Operation Endangered Species, and we were working on saving this alligator snapping turtles and purchasing eggs that we could then, or purchasing turtles that were raised from the eggs, obviously with the federal Fish and Wildlife, and then how do we get those turtles into schools so that way, you know, individual teachers could have it for their students to learn to raise and raise awareness about these turtles, and then return them back to ultimately the zoo and the Department of Natural Resources to then put back into the last place they were seen. So I had 2 girls, freshman girls. One was a super teeny tiny little cheerleader. She was kind of peppy, kind of excited. The other one was a much taller, very shy, very quiet student. And the 2 of them were like best friends right from the beginning. And they're like, you know what, we really want to work together and we really want to raise money for alligator snapping turtles. I was like, sure, go for it. How much do you want? You know, it's $485 a turtle. They're like, we don't know. We want to see if we could raise like $10,000. Cool. Long story short, they didn't do that. Instead, they raised about $1,000 that year as freshmen by writing grants and also going to individual board meetings in different high-rise offices all throughout Chicago, where I teach. And while they got a whole bunch of no's, they learned how to one, make a video, two, propose their presentation, three, ask for money. The cool thing was that it didn't stop freshman year. In fact, they kept on doing it every single year up until they graduated. By the time they graduated, they wound up raising $68,000. Two girls who, one was super excitable, one was super quiet and shy. And what they realized as a result of this project is that they could write. And not only could they write, but they could write so convincingly that they could actually get funding. And so as a result, I just lost my little PowerPoint, so I apologize. But as a result, one of the girls got a full ride to Michigan University and for academics in engineering because of the mycelia project. And she also wound up becoming, you know, talk about what Bailey was doing and what Sean was doing. They also, or she became one of the SeaWorld's Youth Advisory Council members and became responsible for actually giving out grant money to students who didn't have Paul Ritter's and Todd Katz's as teachers, but who still wanted to be able to do something. And so to see it come full circle was absolutely amazing. And so when, you know, Jordan mentions, like, you know, love the idea of having kids write grants. Yeah, we're empowering them. We're teaching them how to do stuff really cool with the talents that we've been asking them to do. Hey, learn how to write. Hey, learn how to, create an argument, support it with data, analyze what could be done, create an action plan about how you see this working. One of the things that the girls did that cracked me up is, how many of you have heard of the Toyota Tapestry or the Lexus Eco Challenge? Any of you guys? A few? I applied for it. I didn't get it. It was for $10,000, I think. It took me months to write it up. The girls submitted it the night before it was due, and they won. They got the $10,000. It was ridiculous. I was overwhelmed with joy, but at the same time, I was like, go figure, the night before. So it's huge what we are doing as a collective group. It's going to be huge what you do with your group of students. And I think what's wonderful is that we're all going to be doing this together, and we're going to help you all get there. So anyone have any questions? Karen.
So I just want to sum up because it helps me kind of plan a little bit. First semester, first quarter is learn how to use Environment Atlas with the kids. Second quarter, some sort of project, but not the big project.
Correct.
And
this is
second semester is like a big one.
Yep. And so Karen, so Karen and I work together at Whitney Young Magnet High School in Chicago. Karen, what I envision us doing with this is the if you're going to do the global warming in your neighborhood, like what the impact on you videos again, then here's just where they utilize the data from the maps to actually showcase and explain, here's actually how we see the impact in our neighborhood. And so then they just incorporate that into that existing project. And so it's already part of what we were doing. So I had them complete that by the end of second quarter. And so it would just be an extension of that piece. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the second thing was there was a grant for that I'm going to be writing for the National Geographic Education Explorers, and that's for $30,000. the idea is if I can get that, and there's 40 of you who are participating and do it for the year, then maybe I can get you guys $750. So that's my goal, to get you all some, some money for your time here, because quite honestly, like, you've given us a lot of your time. I know it's awesome what's going to happen, and if I can just give you, a couple $100 as like a thank you, and you guys are awesome, and it encourages you to keep on doing this sort of work, then Paul and I have done our jobs in helping to encourage and further empower excellent teachers like yourself. So that's what we really are hoping for. If any of you know of any other grants that are super big like that, please share it with us. Email Paul or myself, and we'll definitely get them written and apply and see what could happen. The next thing is that if any of you want, because right now we don't have many grants to give. However, your states might. And so if you go to like just environmental education, and type in your state, you might be able to pull up a bunch of different grant opportunities for your school / for your class, to get them some supplies or money or whatever it is that you think you might or they might need. And that would be really beneficial. The other thing is, if you have a PTO of some sorts, you could ask the PTO, or you could have the kids, that's the part, have the kids go and ask the PTO when they have one of their meetings and say, hey, here's what we want to do. Here's the data using EnviroAtlas. Here's what we know. Here's what we would like money for. Here's why we think this is so important. So let the parents, the teachers, the superintendent, let them see what's going on with you and your students. And by the way, it looks really good on you too, so to have your kids representing you in that way. So that's what we're up to. Megan, thank you for giving us that info. Yeah. Any questions? All right, I'm just gonna pat myself on the back real quick. That was less than 30 minutes. Nice job. Yeehaw. Any questions?
Todd, I was just gonna point out that, and I put this in the chat, which is that if folks already know what any of their project pieces, so especially kind of the first part where you're all kind of getting used to the tools that we've introduced you to, especially EnviroAtlas, and you're kind of figuring out that first piece of, okay, what am I already doing where I might be able to incorporate this into projects I'm already doing? Like, if you already have those ideas, or like as you come up with them and you want to like run it by me or Jenna or anybody else, just like who's very, very familiar with EnviroAtlas, I mean, there's quite a bit there, so it can be tough sometimes to maybe find exactly what you need. We can help direct you to some resources. So like, feel free to reach out to us, say, hey, we want to do something with climate. This is our neighborhood. This is what we're thinking. And like, we can give you a short list of data, or tell you the tools that are going to be the most relevant, or point you to maybe other people's data that you could look at in EnviroAtlas. And like, we're definitely willing to help you do some of that like legwork, and so you're not totally just feeling like, okay, where do I start? Like, that's definitely what we're here for. So like, definitely reach out. And that's part of why, we want to use the teacher hours, but also like, we'll be available beyond that as well.
Jessica, I'm going to tag team on that too. Todd and I, if you guys are going, gee, I don't know what I want to do with my kids. Hey, call us, email us. My cell phone, I think I've given everybody my cell phone number. I'll put it in there. Todd just put his in there. Call me, email us. We'll come up with ideas or whatever. But just to kind of give you like what I'm going to do, because Todd is going to probably send out Mycelia, the hard copy, or email electronic copy out to everybody. But I'm going to be doing the Mycelia project, which he developed, which is a list of deliverables with my students electronically. And I've done this for the last couple of years. It's a brilliant piece of work. And he's talked about it. He's going to be sending it out. But I'm going to be integrating EnviroAtlas into that. My and EarthEcho and other things. But my English teacher, who's not on here, who's my collaborating partner, she's working on her students writing stories like we did with the Jessica, I think, did this. Jessica and Jenna did this the other day with my story of my local community after they drew out their maps. So my English teacher is working on that. I'm working on my Cilia. If you guys have got questions, hey, just want to brainstorm, throw some stuff, darts up against the wall and see which one comes closest. Let's do that. I don't want anybody to feel overwhelmed. At the same time, there's lots of great ideas. And, you know, back to that Facebook page, throw stuff up in there, right? I mean, that's why we created that private group, so we could have our own little thing. Some of you aren't Facebookers. Great. Call us, text us, whatever we got to do. But my thought process is we don't want anybody just spinning wheels. We don't want anybody to get overwhelmed, right? This is not a difficult thing because we have all of us together. And let me point out what happens when we have all of us together. We can't lose because there's an incredible wealth of brilliance behind this little lens. And you guys are it. And so if we sit there and we go, gosh, I just don't know what to do. You know, that's the problem with so many people out in this world is they sit there. We're not sitting there. We're here on July 29th after our 15,000th session of 12 million hours, and we're still getting after it. And that's what I love about you guys. And so draw on each other, pull each other in. Call me in the midnight, and I'm freaking answering the phone. That's what I had to say.
That was good. All right, so you have my cell phone number. I'm not trying to be arrogant in any way, shape, or form, but I know that my strength is in coming up with big ideas. Like, I know how to do that. I'm really good at that. If any of you lack that because you're excellent at planning and organizing and all those things that I can't do, please reach out to me. Let me help you with the other part, with the big idea, with the big ideas. You have my cell phone. I'm not going to announce it because hopefully that part doesn't actually translate into the recording, like the chat part. But there you go. Thank you all. I'm done. I don't have anything else. I got to go do Enviro Atlas stuff and figure out how Enviro Atlas works.
Jenna, Jessica, Megan, you guys got anything?
We just really hope that you'll come to the teacher hours where those are designed just for y'all. So we can like workshop, troubleshoot, help you out. And we really think that's where kind of the meat of you learning how to use Enviro Atlas will probably happen. So please come and join us.
Repeat those again? Can you repeat those again?
I can put the slides up again if you want, Paul.
Yeah, please, just real quick for everybody.
Okay.
And I'll be there. I'll be there for the junior high and high school ones. I'll see if I can make the elementary one.
Yeah, the elementary. It'll really help if you come with some questions too. So if there's anything specifically you want to learn about, that'll help us guide. We don't have nothing planned. It's just going to be us giving you what y'all need.
I know I'm going to come to the high school one, and mine's definitely going to be about climate. So that offer to kind of get some heads up about what data sets, speak to that would eliminate some of my research time. That would be great.
Yeah, we'll do some digging for you before then.
That's a perfect way to come with just a topic, and we can take it from there. Thanks, Karen.
Or like if anybody had, like Karen already told us her topic, but if you have one, you want to email it to us or, throw an idea out so we can do some digging for you ahead of time, that's cool too.
We'll probably use that spreadsheet as a reference point for some ideas. So go ahead and pop things in there from homework day 1, and we'll look at that.
I have a sort of question / comment. I'm thinking of some directions that we could take this at my school that kind of capitalizes on things we've already done, stuff that students already have some familiarity with. But I guess how I'm trying to pitch this to my students is that I really want them to decide what the actual action becomes. Yeah. And I want to leave it really open-ended because I know that some of our students may be more interested in the intersection of social justice and environmental justice. So I'm envisioning perhaps even students wanting to address more of like urban planning or urban management. And so I guess I'm just trying to sort of like think aloud here about how to have those dialogues with students and potentially even have them, like, I don't know if maybe students get into groups based on what they're already interested in. They present potential ideas, because I guess I just sort of envisioned one cohesive solution coming together at the end of the year that we all got behind, but I wanted to leave it totally open-ended for students to pick from whatever feels most relevant to them.
Jordan, have you seen Todd's mycelia yet? You have not, have you?
He gave me a pretty good description of it. We were talking on the phone before, like, everything got up and running here, but I would love to see, more details.
I really think that's the answer to your question. I really do. Todd, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but that's how I'm doing mine.
Okay.
And so what you just described is what I'm doing, and that's where I'm getting my stuff from. So
sounds good.
That's what I would do.
Okay. I like that. And then I'm kind of just envisioning like the potential for every once in a while there's students that are just like insanely passionate about one thing, but maybe it's not what everybody else gets behind. I think that like keeping that option in there for them to also pursue a different, direction than what the sort of class unifies behind if they're super passionate about it, because I think that's important as well. So I may just kind of have that caveat in there for my students.
Well, that's exactly what we're creating, right? So we're wanting that to happen, and in order to do that, it's not something that you can dictate, right? I mean, it's something that they have to do. And Todd, like I said, will send this out, but that's where I think the tools are, and it's a framework, right? So it's a framework, and you modify the framework, and once everybody sees this, I think you'll understand. And it's just it works. It really does.
Sweet. I'm seeing Jessica's message as well, so that would be super helpful to learn more about that decision-making lesson plan. I think like we have a solid history at our school of opening up conversations and kind of getting fired up about things and like what this is wrong and sort of finding the environmental indicators behind injustice. But I would love more direction on bringing that together into a more, cogent discussion, basically.
Sure.
Yeah. So Jordan, we have on the schedule right now to try to lead that lesson plan with all of you and your students involved. And one thing we're trying to figure out is exactly how we do that.
Okay.
So you won't have to do that lesson plan necessarily for them. We would help you with that piece kind of at the first point. And what we're doing right now, we actually have our first version tomorrow, which is we've created a version of that lesson plan where we've incorporated a lot of environmental justice components and bringing in that data and bringing in data from EJ Screening, which is an EJ screening tool. So, I mean, we'll definitely keep in touch with you guys on that. And we'll probably be running some ideas by you guys about how to do that whole piece where we incorporate both you and your students at the same time. And because we're still trying to figure that out, but it's definitely on our to-do.
Cool. That's really helpful because I think that's my last sort of piece of hesitancy a little bit with Project Peace is just I feel very comfortable, I think, with the Enviro Atlas, and I feel like you guys have left us no shortage of options to pick from. I just don't want to pick. If it was up to me, we'd get a greenway so I could bike more. But that's not the most important thing to all of my students, And so I don't want to be hey guys, we're doing a Plan a Greenway project because I want it to be up to them. So that's super helpful.
Yep, we'll help you out, buddy.
I know. Did he say that it was Greenway, or did he just know?
No, well, so to be fair, I have perused a little bit the case studies, I guess you'd call them. And then I just also bumped into a kind of what I'd call a crazy sign guy around the corner. He runs something called the Church of Social Justice in my neighborhood. But he has all the signs in his yard and he's take a sign for free, donate if you want. But anyway, he's doesn't own a car. He's been a biking only person since 2000. And so he was mentioning that he was hoping our city could get more greenways because that's literally the only way he gets around. And so when I actually mentioned Enviro Atlas to him, and he's a 50-year-old man that is not a teacher or anything, but I think he's gonna start looking at Enviro Atlas because he wants to know how to get in the ear of the Rails to Trails Conservancy in our area and get more greenways. So Yeah. Who says Enviroalis is only for K-12, right?
That's right. Cool.
It's for the world.
Yeah. Anyone else have any other questions or, want to throw some ideas around or anything like that?
Anything from anybody. It's either that or I start singing.
I'll say something. I just wanted to make sure, like Jessica said, and I really want to hit it home, that we are trying to figure out the best way that we can engage your students, and whether that looks like us coming in and doing the activity 20 times in 20 different classrooms, I'm not sure so if you have ideas or how you see that going, or if you know time slots where you're going to already meet with your students, maybe we can go ahead and make a Google form that's like, see if there are any time slots where some of you line up together, so that we can start to kind of plan that out and get some details behind it in a way that makes sense for everybody.
I think we'll know in like a month. What we're doing.
Yeah. That's CPS for you, folks.
And in 1 month and 1 day, it'll all change. So everybody's in that same boat. It's no big deal.
All right.
Jenna, I would like to say that when I said I was going to sing and you just immediately said, no, that's not going to happen. I actually can't sing. I'm just saying your Christmas present is getting smaller. I'm telling you.
While we're on the subject of keeping Paul from doing embarrassing things, he said earlier in this webinar that he'd get out on the corner and sell lemonade if anybody needed water quality testing kits, which I really admire and would be kind of interesting. But you can also, I was shocked when I didn't even know this, but our ISD has a bunch of Vernier probes and LabQuest interfaces that they'll lend out to schools. And even if they don't have that, there's like a decent chance that your ISD might already have some water quality testing kits, or be able to connect you with a school in your district who does. And so if you're thinking you want to do water quality testing, intermediate school district. So they're like, I guess CPS would kind of be like an equivalent of that, right. But they basically like dole out kind of resources and support, especially to small charters who don't have like a massive school district behind them. And so, it's just kind of an easy thing to do, especially if you don't have experience with water quality testing materials like initially. Oh, Donor Shoes, is awesome. Donor Shoes is really great. So just a couple other things to keep Paul from having to go out and sell lemonade.
I'm okay with selling lemonade. I could
sell lemonade, whatever, regardless. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I could sell a drowning person a glass of water.
I kind of believe it.
All right. Riverwatch, nice. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Riverwatch is good stuff. They're doing that in Southern Illinois too, out of Illinois Great Rivers, and they're all connected. And so they have plenty of different testing too.
For those of you watching the recording that can't see the chat box, the comment was that you can get testing supplies free through Riverwatch, so it might be worth checking out if your state has that.
This reminds me of, sometimes people would struggle with something. I think about like my wife who's like, I just don't understand how this thing works and what to do with it. I've been trying for like 40 minutes to fix it and to get it to work. And then she's like, Todd, can you help me? And I come in and after like 60 seconds, it's done. And she just looks at me like, I don't understand how you know how to do this. Collectively, we do the same thing. If there's something where you're like, man, I just wish I had this resource, let the group know. There's enough of us here who know how to do stuff in 60 seconds that would take you, a lot longer to do. And so I think if we reach out to one another, that will be very helpful to you, and it saves you guys a lot of time that you don't need to be spending, trying to find stuff. All right, Karen, adios. The rest of you guys, I think we're good. End a little early, if you don't mind. Sarah Bear.
If you guys need money to do something and you don't have it, call me. I'm serious about the lemonade.
And Sarah recommended again that there are soil and water conservation districts that have lots of supplies and resources for y'all.
Sarah, do I know you? Did we? Were you my student teacher?
No, I'm old enough to be your mom.
Oh, okay, good. Hi, Mom.
Sarah!
I've been looking for you for so long.
Roast him, drag him, Sarah.
It's the best Zoom moment of my summer, or video conference moment of my summer.
We'll stay on for a little bit, but for those of you that are leaving, bye, and hope to see you at your hours.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
By the way, Jordan, I turned 50 this year, so that comment you made earlier about the 50-year-old, I'm just going to say that right now.
that hit home.
I regret that one.
I really regret saying turd, so I
No,
lost
it's a compliment because this guy is 50 and he doesn't even own a car. Like, he rides his bike everywhere, you know? Look, it's a testament to the, you know, power that 50-year-olds can have on two wheels.
Todd, hit stop.
All right, hold on. Yeah. After that comment, yeah. Jeez, this Jordan guy, man. Hold on.
I know. Did it get snipped off by the end?
No,
he'll edit it out.
Oh man.
Well,
All right.
and this will be the longest video we have because it's the only one that's not in 2 parts, right? Like, it's going to be.
Oh,